Welcome to the 2717 podcast. I'm Javier, an authentic wedding filmmaker.
And I'm Ashley, a passionate wedding photographer.
We're here to bring Proverbs 27:17 to the wedding industry. As iron sharpens iron,
so one person sharpens another. In this fun series, we're all about sharing experiences and building a community.
Expect heartfelt stories, creative inspiration, and some amazing behind-the-scene moments.
Plus, insights from some truly inspiring guests.
Tune in to connect with us, spark your creativity,
and be a part of a supportive community.
You're listening to the 2717 podcast.
Planning your wedding isn't just about choosing a venue, it's about finding the perfect backdrop for one of the most meaningful moments of your life. That's where Uliana Estate comes in. Nestled in the heart of Lakeland, this elegant estate gives you that classic scenic charm, like a movie set, but it's all yours. Think lush greenery, romantic gardens, and plenty of room for unforgettable moments with the people you love the most. It's a place where every detail feels personal because it's not just a venue. It's where your story begins. See how Uliana Estate can make your wedding day truly yours at ulianaestate.com. Thanks for sponsoring today's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 2717 podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Javier, and today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Julie Czernek with Uliana Estate. We're actually right now in her bridal suite. It's so beautiful, absolutely amazing. Thank you for having us here and hosting our podcast.
So honored.
So excited to learn more about you and just everything that you got going on.
Awesome.
So I really want to tell me a little bit about your origin story. How did this all come about? Because
where do I start? Oh, gosh. How far do you want me to go back?
As much as you want to share.
Okay, so kind of like how we got to where we are?
Correct.
Okay, that's the whole story. No, I'm kidding. I'll keep it short.
And we're here.
I know. It's like, go grab your coffee and grab a listen. No, I'm kidding. I'll kind of shorten it up until we get to the good stuff. So basically, long story short, I've been in Florida. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, going on 10 years. Originally from Seattle, Washington. Lived in California for 3 years before I moved here. Told myself I was only going to be here for 5 years. And now I'm doubling that. So, got married 6 years ago. My parents moved here 5 years ago. We were married for a year. My parents came from Seattle, Washington, and that's how this all started. So my mom, if you've met her, Maria, she's incredible. Me and my mom are in business together. And we started a flower business because really there was nothing in Lakeland with like florals. And when she moved here, I just kind of was like, what are you going to do? Like, you're too young to retire. You could work at Publix. I've heard it's great. But like, she's been in the same job since we moved to America. So, I was kind of like, felt this pressure of like, what is she going to do? What is my dad going to do? He's a little more retired, So we were both kind of like, let's just do flowers on the side. Like, let's just kind of let her do her thing. She's always wanted to have a flower shop back in Seattle. And it kind of just happened. And so we started out of our house. We were out of my house for 2 years. I worked full-time at a church, and my mom did the flowers. She would go to Orlando, pick up the flowers, make the arrangements while I was at work. I would come home, and I would deliver the flowers. Wow. And so we did that for 2 years. Then holidays, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, we would do hundreds of orders in our house, like everywhere. And then 2 years in, we found our first location on South Florida within a little event space. So we did our flower shop in the back, and then we did events in the front. And again, that all kind of started because once we did flowers, we got into the wedding industry, small parties, then we added balloons because that was a thing. Then we added charcuterie. Like, it was just like whatever the trend is, we kind of just kept expanding and expanding. So originally we were Uli Floral. ULI Floral. Then we swapped to Julie & Co. because we kind of wanted an umbrella of things, of all the services we started providing. Then once we got the event space, I left my job, did this full time, and then we went to Uliana Estate once we got the venue. Yeah. So we've kind of I would say it almost feels like every 2 years, 3 years, we kind of made a big leap of career, and we kind of landed here about 10 months ago.
Yeah, always keeping it on your toes.
Yes,
I
yes.
love it.
Hopefully we're not going anywhere for a while and no name changes and all of that,
It's been an amazing growth stage.
Yes.
Seeing where you started to where you're at now, it's pretty incredible, honestly. I've been watching from afar and seeing your growth, and that's really admiring, and just being able to see everything, your vision come into life, and those opportunities come into life.
Yeah, thank you.
we have some commonalities. You know, we both went to SEU as well.
I
believe.
worked there.
Oh, you worked there?
I worked there.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
I did not attend, did not graduate college actually. So
What?
that's what brought me
go
here.
off.
Yeah. That's what SEU brought me here though. So kudos to that.
Wow. I
Yeah.
never
What year?
knew that.
Yeah. What year were you?
I was there from 2014 to 2017.
I came to end of 2014 and I left 2016.
See, I knew
Wow.
I knew of you by your looks.
Yeah.
I just didn't know who you were, but because
Were
I'm
you
like
not a
that
part of
pretty much.
DSF?
I was a commuter.
Okay.
So I wasn't
So you were
as
on site. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then my last 2 years I was off campus.
Got it. Okay.
Just online. My wife, she was there the full 4 years on campus, but I was more with the football players, and I got along with them more, make connections in that side. But I knew of you, and I, like a lot of familiar faces from
Wow.
SEU.
That's so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did not attend there.
Oh, I did not. No worries. But it's like a whole family, honestly, in that sense there.
Yes.
Everybody knows each other. And, a lot of people from there have gotten into this wedding space too as well.
100%. And people will still come up to me and being like, hey, do you remember you from SEU? Or, hey, I remember you. And you're like, whoa, like, hence again, the 10 years. I'm like, it feels like such a decade ago where I'm like, I don't even remember that campus sometimes because it feels so like in a different era. So.
Well, getting back to you now.
Okay.
Was this always the plan to have a venue where did the dreams really start from?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say when we first started the flower business, no, we had no idea what I was doing. This was supposed to be a little side gig for my mom. This was just supposed to pay for her gas and get some groceries on the table. Like this did not have any thought process. I had no ducks in a row. I got my first website probably 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Never had a website. It was just literally like we kind of grew as the business grew. And then at some point, yes, once we were in the wedding industry doing florals, we did start dreaming of having a venue. We've probably been looking for roughly, 4 years now. We got really close right before COVID. And then when COVID happened, we were like, oh my goodness, the Lord protected us from that. Like, what would our industry look like now? Like there's so much pressure because we were so close to making an offer. But we have driven all over Florida, and my best friend realtor has driven from place to place with me until we found this in our backyard.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, this space is stunning.
Thank you.
So stunning. I just
you.
I bet that side of the industry is so much fun. Like to be a venue owner. Like, how does that feel?
Oh, I'm learning. I'm learning. So we are, as of this last weekend, we've done 4 of my weddings. Not even really my weddings out of those 4, which is kind of crazy. So basically what happened was this was an existing wedding venue. So it's been here for 30 years.
Okay.
So when we bought the property, we honored the contracts that they already had. So this spring, we roughly had 5 weddings we honored.
Okay.
And then my first wedding, so this is the fun stories, all right? My first wedding was supposed to be September 22nd. The day of rehearsal, my bride calls me, she's in the hospital. And I'm like, awesome. She goes, can you run rehearsal without me? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. Because she was from Fort Myers, I believe, or Fort Lauderdale. So she still had to drive. And I was like, yeah, of course. All right. What's going on? She was like, I don't know. Once the tests come back, I'll keep you posted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Ends up being 2 hours later, her appendix erupted. She's going into an emergency surgery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My first wedding.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So
You're like,
pivot,
all right, I'm jumping in.
Right. So I pivot and spent the rest of the day calling all the vendors, letting them know
Wow.
we had an emergency. So we postponed her wedding to December 1st. Then our first wedding was a Hurricane Helene wedding that their venue got flooded in North Carolina. They came here, they toured it on Sunday. Their wedding was the next Saturday. So we flipped it and had my first wedding technically in 6 days. And then my next wedding that I thought was originally going to be my first wedding, Hurricane Hilton hit 2 days before the wedding. And so then we had that wedding 2 days after Hurricane Milton. And then since then, venues have been ruined, flooding, all that. So we've had 2 weddings back-to-back weekends. So technically, yes, my clientele, but not because I'm just trying to be a space available for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
4
which is
weddings
great.
in, have another one next weekend. Some learning, but let
Yeah.
me tell you, there's been story after story.
Never
So
a dull moment.
Never a
Never a
dull
dull
moment.
moment.
It's been a crazy
Yeah.
last half of this year already. And
Yeah.
I can't believe it's almost November.
So it's
Or it
learning
is
a
November.
lot. Like, it's one thing to be in the wedding industry. It's one thing to be a vendor. And now being on the other side, it is
It's
a lot.
quite interesting that your very first couple are actually like my neighbors.
Yes, that's right. My very first wedding on
Yep.
October 4th were your neighbors.
Yep. And that's
So,
insane. I was
small
like,
worlds.
I finally got to meet them
Oh,
too, because we never
good.
greeted like past one another,
Yes.
because they're 2 houses down from
Okay.
where I live, and I was like, hey, how are you? And we finally got to talk and mention the venue. They got married here. They enjoyed it, and that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's been very sweet. I mean, these couples have been unbelievable to work with. It's been so fun, and like by no means do I want to be like the saving hero. I
Yeah.
just am like, hey, my venue's available. Let's do this. I can't imagine being in their shoes.
No,
Yeah.
not at
You
all.
know,
It's
like
it's
being a
been
bride
crazy.
and they've had to pivot too. Like, yes, I
Yeah.
gave them a space, but they had to pivot their plans and their decor,
Yeah.
and it's different. And yes, they have all been happy, but
Yeah.
it also kudos to them to taking a change and kind
Absolutely.
of working with
Absolutely.
what they had to. So it's been fun.
And honestly, you're planting good seeds. It's like what goes around comes around, honestly. And
Yeah.
when it just speaks to the character, one, of who you are, what this space represents for those individuals, those couples, and during that time in need, like, hey, we're here for you,
Yeah.
and we're gonna try to do our best in however we can.
Totally.
That speaks a lot.
And that's kind of what we wanted with the venue. And I'm sure we're going to dive into this, but to piggyback off of that, that was a huge thing, is being a vendor and being restricted all the time with different venues. Like, we have to pivot all the time as vendors. Like,
Yes.
you arrive and the plan is different, the rules are different, the policies are different. Well, the bride wanted this, but you can't touch the wall. So how am I going to build this flower arch when I can't attach anything, that weren't communicated to you prior? So you have to pivot. And so I really want the venue to be, yes, we have guidelines, yes, we have restrictions, but I want it to be as open and everyone's welcome as possible, because I know what it's like to be on the other side. So that was kind of the dream, and the goal is to make this venue, like, as vendors, being like, okay, where do you guys put your stuff as photographers and videographers? Trying to think through those little things of, okay, making sure you're taking care of on your meals and all that, because I know what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah.
So hopefully
Yeah.
that will pay off.
Yeah, it will for sure.
Honestly, I believe that's really a unique advantage in that aspect.
So unique and so
Like,
amazing.
you didn't start right off the bat as a venue owner. It's like, no, we were florists and we traveled. We went to different venues. We got a lot of different perspectives, experiences, and it's shaping you guys, how you guys want to design your own space, your own
For
venue,
sure.
and how you guys want to run it. I think that's huge. It creates a really good opportunity for like building more relationships with vendors and also with couples, where it's like, hey, your dreams can come. There is guidelines, but we can see what we can do and make it happen.
Yep. And then you also know the right vendors to reach out to.
Exactly. That's the key right there.
Like, wait, you want this seal, you want this thing draping from somewhere. Okay, like, I know the right people to call. I can't do it, but I know the right people. So it definitely helps. So we're excited. I mean, we're in the early stages, but
Yeah.
we have a lot to look forward to.
Yes, for sure. So diving into what you said before, so this has been a like pre-owned wedding venue.
Yes.
So did it look like this when you guys purchased the property?
You can answer that.
That's a no. There's been a lot of work.
Oh, absolutely
Yes.
not.
Oh, tell us
Goodness.
everything. Give us the
Okay,
deets.
what we should try to do, if is like, I could try to give you some photos.
Yes.
Yeah.
send
To,
them
like,
over.
throw in, or videos or whatever, so
Absolutely.
people
Yes.
could see little snippets of how awful this place is. But just kidding. But honestly, I saw potential, and that's what it had to
Yeah.
take. But renovations have been, since the day we got the keys, we started, and we haven't stopped, and we probably won't stop for a while. We have lots of dreams, we have lots of goals, we have lots of things that we want to do. And it's still not perfect, and it won't be perfect for a while, and we know that. Like, yes, this room is done that we're sitting in, but it's not done. We're still going to come back and, almost do like another remodel in here and fine-tune things and finish things and make things proper. And, the electric is all being redone. We have all brand new doors. I care about that stuff. If I have to slam that door, no, like, Good, it cost me a couple $100. Get a door that opens and closes and save everybody the headache, you know? So like little things like that. But so we do still have goals to come through and fine tune a lot of spaces, but we're trying to do like the big Band-Aid of like rip it off, fix it, and we'll come back to it, you know, but at least it looks better than what it did.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. And even like those, like you said, those small things, it's just like, those are extra things that just like make it convenient for everybody in the wedding day.
100%. Yep,
So,
yep.
yeah, so helpful. I love that.
And honestly, a fun fact is it's all been done by my family.
Oh,
So
that is even more cool.
yes,
Labor
so
of
all
love.
of it, it
Yes.
is labor of love. And I really think that when I do a walkthrough and people make a comment of what it looks like or how beautiful it is, I always do try to remind people like, we will live on property one day. So we treat it like our home. We treat this property like it's our place, you know? So my father-in-law has done most of the remodel. My dad, my mom has probably painted this entire property by herself.
Oh, go queen.
She pulled out her bag right at the end. But we have gone through, I don't know how many gallons of paint. Sherlyn Williams knows me by name. I have shirts now. Like, it's crazy how often they see me.
You gotta rep that shirt. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's been really, really neat. So it's been fun because I have a vision and my father-in-law really kind of helps me execute it. This room, we had help. It's probably the only place we had help because of how high it is. And everything you see white has been redone. And so it took, I think there was like a crew of 7 or 9 people. But now my father-in-law came in and did the touches on it. He did finish the bathroom. He remodeled the bar area, things like that. But this is the only area we've had help. Other than that, it's been all by family.
Yeah,
Wow.
I feel like
So-
you can feel that homey touch too, which is
Yes.
so
The
special.
perfectionists too. We're perfectionists. That's could be a big issue too. Of we try to hire people and we're like not good enough, not worth it. So we're taking our time. We've got the keys in January. We're taking our time because we want to do it right. When we take down a wall, there's always issues. It's an old building. It was not maintained. It was not kept up. And so when we redo it, we want to do it right, whether it's up to code, whether it's new material, things like that. So it's just taken a little bit longer than I expected and cost more than we expected in a way. But we want to do it right and not take shortcuts. So hence why the groom room is not remodeled yet. But when we do it, we will do it right. And it'll be worth the wait.
Absolutely.
So.
What I really want to dive into is speaking, how has like business, like your mindset has shifted? Has it shifted from going from a floral company now to a venue company, and what those systems or processes kind of look like? And I know you're in the beginning stages that you're still going to be learning to refining that process, but what has been like the transformation so far? Like, whoa, this is different from this side
Liability.
of the business. Speak to that.
Everything is a liability around here. You know, it's 7 acres, and that's all you think about constantly is going, oh gosh, this needs to be covered and this and that. And to be honest, as a florist, it was a small business and people hired us because they loved our work and they loved me and my mom. We never had a team. Like, yes, I've had a friend or two help, but we've never had payroll. We've never had like, hey, meet the team of 4 or 5 florists. It's always just been me and my mom. And with that, it has made it a little bit more difficult. I was very loose with my floral business, you know, where with this, I have to be very legit. And my husband has gone on to me on that. And I'm so, so thankful for my husband because he sees the contracts, he sees the liability, he sees all that I don't want to deal with. And he makes me do it. So obviously everyone has a contract before they get to save the date, the payments, the deposits. As a florist, I would take payment the day of the wedding because, you know, I had to buy the inventory. So I didn't want to take it too far in advance where this is a little bit different. So it's a huge learning curve. So I definitely have to be more professional. You know, you're talking a bigger budget for people, you know, the venues usually where they kind of spend their money. And so payment plans and, you know, are you within budget? Where the florist is like you kind of go back and forth and budgets could change and budgets go up and down, where a venue, it's like, this is your minimum. So it's definitely been a lot to learn and I'm still definitely learning. We have about 30, maybe a little under 30, 25 contracts for next year already.
Yay, that's so exciting.
I didn't even know we had that many until Hurricane Helene or Milton, one of those two. my husband had a day off, and we just sat there all day and knocked out all of our contracts, got everything on the calendar, kind of got reorganized, and I was really proud of where we're at.
Yeah, that always feels so good too, to
Yeah.
like reorganize your like calendar in your life, and you're like,
Yes.
okay,
Structure.
yes,
Structure,
oh my
yes.
goodness.
I live on structure, so for me,
I
it's
don't.
like
I'm
it's
the same way as you, girly pop.
it's funny because like I went to school for business. Like I never found myself being a creative, being a videographer. That was not the goal. That was not the plan.
Wow.
I was actually working at Norwestern Mutual as a financial representative at the time, and it taught me skills that I didn't translate it into this. But I enjoyed photography at the time, and then I got into video later on, and just focused. So I was always really good when it came to like understanding liabilities, understanding those things, because I worked in insurance, not just there, but at another bigger company, being an adjuster and like understanding liability and how big that is. Luckily, as a videographer, the only liability is the equipment I bring and if anything happens and stuff. But being a venue owner, I can only imagine every little thing is so important. Making sure it's written or be add-ons into the policies and stuff like that, and having that. It's just huge. It's a whole different machine.
It is. It really is. And we're going to learn as we go. Again, because it was an existing venue, we were able to take what they had
Yeah, which
and
is so
apply
nice.
it. And so, like, yes, we rewrote the contract. Like, yes, we have our own policies in place. We've had attorneys look at it, and they were pretty impressed, you know. But again, my husband is a financial advisor, so he's good at contracts and all that stuff. So he, like, has fine-tuned it.
Yeah.
And where we've had to learn it, you know, I think it's like 4 pages, and I almost have it memorized because I need to know, like, what you can and cannot do, what are our restrictions to a degree, and what vendors have to have, liability insurance and all of that. And so on my walkthroughs, I try to make it as clear as possible too. That way when they look through the contract, they're not hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
But again, I would say every venue or every wedding is an experience, you know, like I'm learning.
Yeah.
And so even these last 4, I would say every venue or every wedding, I've learned something where I'm like, oh, I need to add this, or I'm missing this, or never thought about this. Okay, like this is now a new policy.
Yes.
Like, you know, so that's really the goal with these weddings happening, is just kind of going, I need to have more experience and kind of fine tune it. And I don't think that will ever end. You know?
Oh, I agree. And
So
one of the questions that kind of comes to my head, like I'm always thinking business aspect and say like,
I love it.
how has operating changed? I mean, I'm assuming it changed dramatically, right? Because you got operating costs and you got the buildings and everything that you're working on. And then also your ideas and plans, and like transitioning from doing florals to having a venue. What has that kind of looked like, the operating cost itself, in terms of like, hey, did it get like things I never had to worry about, now I have to worry about? And how do I think of how to, when a couple is booking, to get enough that covers the cost? That way when, you know, their payments, depending on what the payment structures and all that stuff looks like, how does that look like? Like painting that picture
I know.
as best as you
It's
can, because I know you're still going
It's
through it.
scary. I mean, it really, there is a weight on my shoulders, you know. I try not to get emotional because it's one thing when you run out of space. It's another thing when you own a property and you are hoping that you get the sales, you hope you get the contracts. You have to do these walkthroughs, but then you're one of 10 walkthroughs, you know? And I think I get it. People have to shop. I understand. But then I don't think sometimes, you know, to be honest, I don't think brides always think about vendors and what we have to go through on both sides. Being a florist, you know, I've just going back to that, like I just recently, you know, there's this person that reached out to me. Their florist had to back out of their wedding because they got pregnant. They're having their baby or something like that. They reached out and I was available. I went through hours of phone calls, discussions. We put a plan together, put an estimate together. I adjusted the estimate. Everything was ready to go. She said yes. She said yes. And all of a sudden, the next email was like, hey, we're going with a different florist. And I don't think brides realize what that does to us sometimes. Like, as a florist, it took everything in me to hold back an email that I wanted to send out, because I'm like, man, that sucks. Like, not only did I already have you pending on the calendar, but those are hours I took away from being with my kids, to be on the phone call with you, to sit and go through your vision. And then the emails, I mean, I think we had 24 emails back and forth on top of not only, let's say you already had a florist back out on you, so now I'm coming in, squeezing you in on the calendar, doing all this work, and then for you just to say, oh, never mind, I went with another florist, probably for a couple $100 of a difference. Yeah. And you're like, man, that sucks. But what do you do? Like when you're in the beginning stages, you can't say, hey, you owe me $100 for every phone call. That's weird too. Like,
exactly.
you know, and I just don't think, I don't know, I'd love to hear from you guys, like how you deal with that of going, I don't think people understand when they're shopping.
Yeah.
What that does to us of going like, you know, again, if you have kids and stuff, you're taking away from your kids and you have a babysitter that you have to pay for and you have to, and that's the same thing with walkthroughs.
Yeah.
You know, you do walkthroughs and it's, oh, this is my 14th walkthrough. And you're like,
oh.
I know. It's tough.
It is so hard.
I know for myself, like in 2022, 2023, it's a little bit of what I would speak to is for me, when I'm in those situations that you put the effort in and it ends up being no, you think it's a great fit. For example, I had a consult call that I don't never do on Sundays. Sundays is for me and the family, go to church. I'm not working whatsoever unless it's a wedding. And, you know, I'd say, hey, well, they wanted to schedule a consult. So we did it for Sunday. I worked with them. We had a great call, great conversation. I felt good about it. I'm like, maybe it could happen. Maybe not. We'll never know until it's really time. And followed up, then reach out, follow up again. And I got an answer that said, no, they went with someone else. And I'm like, okay, like I've learned that it's a numbers game. And I've learned that you have to, as a business owner, you're just going to have to figure out how to put your emotions aside because you're going to have to do the work. And you get more no's and you get yeses, but those yeses are going to feel so rewarding because the yeses are going to appreciate you. The yeses are going to drive new business and make you feel fulfilled in what you do. Mm-hmm. And learning, the biggest one for me, as I've learned, is calling out on the right audience, calling out the right couples that are going to appreciate that time and trying to filter them out as much as possible. So I don't have to get the pricing aspect of things where it's a little bit different. But I think it could be applied some way, somehow, where as a videographer, for me, it's about like, okay, what can I create for you creatively? But if I'm looking at a venue is a canvas and you can paint it with however you want, depending on the vendors. Yeah. And so I think there is still a way to be able to filter out and calling out to the right couple with a different perspective of saying like, hey, like this is your canvas. This is what we have right now. Yep. If this fits what you have, perfect. If this is what you're looking for, we're not maybe the good fit at all. Yeah. But these are the elements that we know we can exceptionally excel at. For sure. And if this resonates with you, like, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's do a tour. Yeah.
But sometimes people come out just to tour, just
they
for
do.
fun. And you're like, awesome. Like, yeah, that's great. I'm honored that you want to see it. But at the same time, like, if this isn't like, when someone says that they drove from St. Pete to come see it in Lakeland, you're going to have my full attention and the time slot I've given you. Like, yes. But then there's other people that come and you're like, so why are we looking at a venue? Exactly. Like, you don't have your ducks in a row. I gave you the price. If I'm not in your price, then I just wanted to come see it. And you're just like, thank you, but no thank you. You know, so, and it's like for a tour on the venue side, you can't say no. Like, how do I weed out the people that you don't know?
You know what comes in mind for me? I'm thinking like real estate too, having those virtual tours as much as possible.
I know. Or even like open houses too. Yeah. I feel that so bad when like no one's there or like anything. I'm like, they're just waiting. And I'm like, oh. But like, I don't know. I feel like that is hard. I really relate to you in that aspect of things of just, I don't know, like, we are just people that own these businesses. Like, we are people too. We're not these big corporations where you're like, if you go to Target and you're like not going to buy anything, like you're working with like not the CEO or the person that made the product. You're working with a storefront associate or whatever. But like with us, like we put so much time into like crafting the perfect email, like, you know, using our word choice, like, so that we replicate us as humans and then like hopping on a call with you. And like you said too, like, I don't know, maybe even just like the normalizing, like, you small businesses are businesses too, and we have business hours, like you said, of very like, much. I feel that too, where I'm like, I squeeze in, like, it's like, oh, you only have Saturdays free. Okay, I'll do a Saturday morning when, you know, Saturdays are reserved for shoots or whatever that looks like, or Sunday was reserved for family. Like, That's so huge for us too. You know what I mean? Like, just as much as you value your time with your family, so do we, and stuff like that. And we're giving you this little ounce of like, okay, yeah, we'll do it because, you know, we want you, we value you, we want you to book and all of that stuff. And then for them to just like,
or when they're having multiple conversations and they're not being on, like for me, I'm like, wait, I'm confused. Like your florist backed out and you reached out to me and I said I was available and we were having 24 emails.
That's crazy that you said you've had multiple calls, multiple emails, multiple estimates, and then
for her to say we're going with another florist, then I'm like, not only did you waste my time and her time, because you would have done that, like, wait, why are you talking to two different florists at this point when you, like, that to me is where I'm like, I know it's not meant to be, and I'm like, okay, I'm better off without doing it, but I also am kind of like, we are human on the other side. I know it's a lot of emails back and forth, but at the end of the day, like, it still takes time to like build out an estimate and figure out the quotes and figure out the florals. Like, it's not just like a transactional thing. Like, everything is so customal. Like, everything is
so emotion based too.
But I saw something that I haven't really shaken off of Facebook with, you know, all these Facebook groups about everything that happened with the hurricanes, right? Everyone's hurt. I see it from both perspectives, obviously. And I think the amount of hate that vendors are getting, have you guys heard about this?
I haven't seen any of this.
So basically what happened is all the brides, you know, on these Facebook groups are like, well, you know, my venue's flooded, so my wedding's getting canceled, or now I am eloping, or now we're going a different direction, but my vendor won't give me my money back, or they're not doing refunds, you know, but it was a disaster and things like that. And I'm like, and so they're basically, what people are kind of saying is like, all the vendors should be giving out refunds, but then the vendors are fighting back going, hello guys, like, we did have this date booked out for a year. Like, yes, I have a family to take care of and I have bills to pay. Like, yes, I understand you're out too, but we are too. And I think sometimes people don't see it until they see their service. And so I think it's this interesting thing of going, sometimes I think that vendors or small businesses aren't being treated like humans, of going, you know, going back to just like everything takes time. And I think if people don't respect that, is kind of a bummer.
It's like going back, we're not corporations, we're small businesses. From 1 to 2 teams maybe, or maybe up to 10 people, depending if you're a caterer. But we're not corporations. And so when you're paying us, we're using that money to provide for our families. And, you know, and activities and our skills. Or if you already
paid a deposit, that
exactly. Operating costs, business costs, to stay afloat, to stay alive.
You know, like there's other things. So I think been a very interesting thing to see. And like, yes, on one side, I'm a venue. So obviously I've been able to help couples. But on the other end, I am a florist too. And I do other things too. And it's also like, yeah, if you're like, I understand, but I can't cancel. I could reschedule you. But like, I've already allocated for this money to come in, and you know, so it's just been this interesting thing. So I think hurricane, it's like, yes, people have lost homes, and yes, people have lost things, and you know, but we've lost business too, and weddings getting canceled, you know. So I think there's just all around, it's such a heavy thing.
It's heavy. That's where, going back to liability and having those contracts, having those things in place that protects you for those moments. If they agree, and ultimately to withhold a contract, they got to go to court and all that other process. But it's one of those things. That's why you put those in your contract.
But you hope you don't have to pull that out. Like, you're
exactly.
Like, I don't want to pull this out.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this.
That's why we have it. That's why we have the agreements in place from the get-go. That way everybody's like, you understand?
There's nothing hidden.
Exactly. And we're both on the same page. And when that time comes, it's like, hey, this is what we agreed to, and this is how we can process it. But, you know, I find it fascinating as humans. Like, we can categorize and see persons completely differently and forget, like, we're all just humans. We're all just people. You know, it's like, hey, everybody deserves to be treated fairly. If you're going to spend time with a business, like, understands, like, hey, especially your story, because your story really resonates, knowing that it's family owned. It's family that's been putting all the labor in, all the work in here, and understand it's like, hey, I do believe that that's the way that you should continue to be able to like push out your Uliana Estate, and sharing that story and sharing what the purpose and behind it.
Part for sure.
That way, the couples that do resonate with it really are gonna value every little moment that they interact with you, understanding it's like, wow, this is them. This is her and her mom putting this work and their family around it.
Like and that's what's really sweet when people, I mean, more than a lot of them, you know, they'll walk through and go, yes, this is special, and you know, you definitely want to I always try to tell people, love what you see now, but again, 6 months from now, a year from now, the ones that are starting 2026, I'm like, don't come to me yet. Honestly, don't come yet, because in 6 months, my venue will look different.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only going to get better. I'm only going to have new furniture and new inventory and new landscaping.
Yeah.
I can only do so much right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you compare me to an existing venue for 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, there's going to be a difference.
Yeah.
But if you take the risk now, you won't be disappointed in a year. But you have to see that, and you have to believe that.
It's honestly the
you know?
same way when couples book me. Like, if you booked me 8 years ago, you're going to see a film that was not really great at all. It was probably my worst ever. But
You at least admit it.
however, they gave me the opportunity.
Yeah.
And at the time, they liked what I produced.
Yeah.
And they were willing to invest into it. And every couple who has been booking, like, there's that progression where it's like, hey, you can go back and watch their films during that year. Like, oh, you can see a certain theme he was doing, certain thing now. Where if you look at my work now, it's going to be completely different from just even 6 months ago, or honestly from the summer and beyond, because creatively things change and I'm inspired again, and I found direction. And just like same as you're evolving in your space, you're going to be able to define exactly like your offering, what Uliana Estate is going to be.
Totally.
Yeah. And we weren't called to stay where we are either. You know what I mean? We're called to grow. We're called to like produce new things. And even with the wedding industry just being the way it is right now, and how it has crazily boomed since 2020 and on, and everything that social media has done for the wedding industry, like, there's no slowing down. You know what I mean? Like, at all. Like, trends are going to keep producing and happening and being crazy, and like,
It's like, as soon as I thought I was on top of a trend, I'm like, are you kidding me? I just got rid of all these linens, and now linens are coming back in. I got rid of
so true.
30 years
Honestly,
of linens.
Personally,
it's
what
so true.
hits my mind is like, you're growing, but you're going to be the expert. You're the expert in flowers and knowing what colors to choose, and positioning yourself as the expert, the authoritative figure. It's like, hey, you can guide them to, hey, these are the right direction. I know this is trendy, but do you want it to be timeless? If that's what your calling is.
Exactly.
That's going to be huge too as well.
But me and my mom just are always laughing. Once we see a video on Instagram, we're like, are you serious? Like, we just dropped all that stuff off at Goodwill. Like, are you, or we'll be like, we just got something, like, we just finally, pulled the trigger and we got this inventory, and then before you know, there's like a new trend, and you're like, but we always want to be growing. And I always tell my clients, I go, hey, what you see now and what you're going to see in a year and a half before your wedding, our inventory will change, it'll grow, things like that, because we like being on the trend.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use the same thing over and over. Once I'm done using it for 6 months, all right, get rid of it. Let's get the new thing.
Go.
Like, I always want to be changing. And I think that is the difference between us being a small business and a family business, is this isn't a corporation. So we're not going, someone told me like, oh yeah, we've been using this for the last 20 years or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not us. Like, I'm not in it just to like, okay, this is what we have, this is what you're using. I want to always be creative here. And I want to go, we don't have that yet, but you want it, I'll buy it for your wedding, and then I'll add it to my inventory or whatever. Like, I always want to be expanding and growing, because that's what's going to make it fun and going, I'm not doing the same thing over and over again.
I relate that so much
so
with you,
good.
because for me, it's venues.
Yes.
I hate going to the same venue over and over and over and over again. I'd rather go to that venue twice a year, keep my mind fresh. But like, if I'm going, I did a wedding before and I went to the same venue 4 times in a row. It was exhausting. Creatively, I'm like, I'm juiced out. Like, I am not feeling it. And it was a different couple. And I did like try to attach myself to the couple and who they are and what's their vibe. That way I can just focus on that rather than just the scenery. Mm-hmm. But going to the same venue over and over and over, it's not inspiring for me.
Yeah.
That's why I love to travel out of state.
Yeah, for sure, because you get to see different things and you get to see it from a different lens. And I hope to always do that on the property. I really do hope that, one person that gets married here, like your neighbor, they got married here, just a few weeks ago. And I hope that when they come back in 2 years for someone else's wedding or an event, they're like, oh, that's a cool touch. Or, oh, like, look, they changed this or that. Like, where even furniture in here, like, as we can see, it's a lot of white. hello, it might not last for long because it's a bridal suite. So,
Yeah.
okay, we might get rid of white and add a different color, or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I always say,
knows?
don't get too attached to stuff because I'm willing to move things around and
I love
do
it.
whatever is needed to kind of like keep it
Yeah.
fresh.
I have to praise you on that too, because I was explaining, like, like, if you ask me, like, hey, what's a good venue in your eyes? And for me, it's about how many looks can I get out of this venue?
Yes.
Oh,
If
so
it's
good.
just one look or two looks, like, hey, that's not enough for me, because I'm looking at, okay, I want to tell a story. How can I tell a story in this venue? If it only has one area that looks good, that's bad.
Yeah.
Because I can't show off either drone footage, and I can't find specific charms of this venue, why the couple picked it. And let's say they're speaking about their vows and they're having a very intimate moment. It's like, all right, where's that on the property? Where can I find that on the property where, like, hey, they can have a really nice moment together?
Yeah.
Where's a area of the property where they can have a lot of fun and there's
Yeah.
like space to, like, the bridal party to run around and
Yeah,
interact and
yeah.
cheer? The more looks a venue has, the better it is, honestly, in my
absolutely.
opinion.
Yes. And that's really what I loved about this venue. Is like I saw the potential
Yep.
of going, there's little pockets and moments here. And that's what I
Yes.
do in my walkthrough. I say, hey, now remember, let's go back to the ceremony area. You have the arches there. So that's one look. It's modern, it's clean, depending on how you decorate it. But then you have the field and the oak trees for another photo opportunity. Then you have the modern backdrop that we built, and I'm always trying to think of how many photos can you get in different angles, different lens. That way I always think, what photo are you going to put in your house? The arches, maybe not as much. Oak tree, that's year round, matches your home vibes,
Yep.
Like, okay, the black grid backdrop, that's also nice too, of going, that's good for a Christmas card or, whatever. Because I try to think through a photographer's lens of going, how many pockets can you get of different styles all on the same property,
Yeah, absolutely, which is so fun because you're going to encounter so many photographers
Yeah.
and so many different photographer styles too.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
can have
Yeah.
someone who's totally documentary and so hands-off and is just like capturing the day how like authentically or whatever. And then you could have someone super editorial that's going to like use the cylinder and like use the stairs and like
Yes.
crazy parts of the venue that you're
Yep.
going to be like, wait,
I didn't
whoa,
see it
that's
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
which
Yep.
is super fun. I mean,
sure.
there's so many really beautiful spots here.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I can't wait for you to come shoot here.
We're going to have to be out here again.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
out here already once, privileged.
I
Hint, hint.
But I'll be right back. I'm only 3 minutes away.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe how close you are.
Small.
Honestly,
So
I'm
fun.
really happy to, like, you started your venue here in Lakeland because it kind of needed that. Like, there's a few venues out here, but there's nothing that I feel as that has a charm in itself that I see the potential. Because I saw the potential too. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, I'm a visionary, so I'm just looking like, oh wow, you can do this, you can do that, and I already see what you've been working on. I'm like, I could see her plan, in my
Yep,
head.
Yep.
And that for me inspired me because, like, okay, you got the land, you have the space. That's the thing that's hard to
Yes.
get
Yes.
is space.
Space.
And I'm like, okay, location's not too bad. Like, hey, there's areas where you can bring from different cities and attract people into here, which is good for our city too.
Yep. And I love it. You've said it a couple times already. You keep using the word charm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally, if I could describe our property, I want it to feel charming. Like, definitely not a barn anymore. It's not rustic. We're getting rid of all of that. Like, yes, maybe one day it'll be more of like the luxury charm. We're getting there. But that's the vibe, is like, I want it to feel unique and different. And yes, Lakeland's not big, but you're also not in a concrete city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, if you are
Perfect.
from Tampa or St. Pete, like, I have a list of hotels and restaurants for you to like come to. It's not in the middle of nowhere. Love Dade City, but it's not in the middle of nowhere. Like, if
Exactly.
you need to go
Yeah.
to Publix, if you, like yesterday's party, they ran out of juice. They were able to go to the store, grab some juice, come right back.
Yeah.
Bartenders ran out of ice. You could go grab ice and come back. Like,
Yes.
it's not too
We're
far.
accessible to
Yes,
everything.
yes.
It's not, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
it's
that
not middle of
location.
nowhere. But then also I feel like Lakeland kind of needed something different. And
Yeah.
that's where I think I love weddings and I want to do weddings, but I also want to do other things on property, just because I think it's beautiful and I want to bring something beautiful to Lakeland. And I don't want people to feel like they have to go to Winter Park or Hyde Park to get these beautiful,
Yeah.
fun community family events.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
start bringing stuff here eventually. And so there's
that is
lots of
so
dreaming
fun.
and lots of plans here. So.
And there's a lot of talented vendors here in
Oh
Lakeland.
yeah, the
that-
grand opening was unbelievable. Are you kidding
Exactly.
me?
Like, where it's like we usually have to travel out of Lakeland.
Yep.
but like, hey, can we bring that, attract
Yes.
it here to our home?
Yeah.
That'll be amazing.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so fun. That is so cool. The grand opening looked amazing.
amazing.
Tell us about that. Javi was there. But
Yeah,
I wasn't
he
there.
was.
I want to
I
hear
was
from
like,
your experience.
I was like, yeah, I know. I was like,
I
in
mean,
both.
it was
I don't know.
unbelievable for 45 vendors to partner with me. I mean, I literally from that night into the next day, days to come, I was like, there's not one thing I would change. Not one thing. The only thing is it got really cold, which is shocking, but it was so cold. And I was supposed to have launched like my crew neck sweaters. And I think I would have sold out only because it was cold. So it like, that would have been like my cherry on top, you know, where I would have been like, that is the only thing. Not one other thing would I have changed. The amount of community and support and the brides that showed up. And they just got to see their venue come to life. It's different when you do a walkthrough on a Monday afternoon and it's quiet and you don't have the DJ and you don't have the bar, you don't have florals. Like, you do have to have a vision, you know, and it was fun for a lot of my brides to come with their families and go, this is what it looks like. I got ideas. And they see the lights and the string lights and the oak trees lit up. It was so fun. And I mean, from a vendor's perspective, everybody was like, this was the best experience we've had. They loved that everything was spaced out. They weren't all crammed in one area. And they all felt like they got attention. They felt like everyone walked through because it was all spread out. So I really, really feel like it was a beautiful showcase. And I look forward to doing more like wedding expos and things like that in the future, open houses, things like that. We'll probably do one once a year. Yeah. So it was great. And your perspective from attending?
I loved it. Honestly,
You're the last one to leave.
Sounds about right.
well, I got there because I had my daughter to pick up, you know.
You should have brought her. You didn't bring her.
I don't know. Liability. And then, so I had to wait until my wife got home. That way I can leave my daughter and come back here. But for me, it was awesome because I didn't want to come as a vendor, like, hey, to promote myself. I just wanted to feel the atmosphere.
Yeah.
How's everybody enjoying it? See everybody's faces. And just be a guest, honestly, and just admire it for what it is. And it was nice to connect with all the other vendors that I've worked with here in Lakeland and outside of Lakeland. I loved it. I think the atmosphere was awesome. People were enjoying it. Vendors were enjoying it. And they were like, wow, everyone's just like, I can see the potential. I see the dream. I can see how it can come together. And if there's anyone that can do it, it'll be you. So
thank you. It was unbelievable. I mean, I still think about it all the time.
Yeah,
So
that
it's fun.
connection is unbeatable.
Yeah.
Just like having such a great community surrounding you guys. That's really beautiful.
It was awesome.
how has faith played a role in your business, from going from a floral business to making the leap into this venue? How has faith just played a role in you?
Oh yeah. The reason that I could do it is by my faith, we're really Christian family. So one thing that we didn't talk about is my family is Ukrainian and my husband's family is Czech Republic. So we're very European and we're very faith driven. And I would not be able to be here without the calling on my life. And it feels weird because I went to Bible college. And it feels weird that I thought I was only called into ministry. And I was very lucky to work for an amazing church. And I loved being in ministry. So when I left the church, I didn't know how I'd feel. And so it's really beautiful now to be able to say, wow, everything that I learned in the church and in ministry and being a youth leader and being a small group leader and all those things have made me to where I could do what I do now. Yes, I'm 33, which I still feel so young, but I'm in my 30s now. You know what I mean?
I'm in my 30s too. We're young.
At the
What you
same
talking
time,
about?
though, I do feel this pressure, and I am in my career now, and I am a venue owner, and I've done so much, and so I was really worried that I was going to miss that aspect. And I think it's so beautiful being a florist and having my small event space to being able to have this now, to see my calling and all of it, of what I loved about the church, and now being able to do it still in this way of loving people and loving God. That's what
ministry.
I want people to feel when they're here, is they might not know that we love the Lord. I hope they do. I hope I talk about it enough. I hope that it's obvious in my conversations and my kindness and things like that. But I definitely want there to be a different presence when people walk around here, because we pray over the property, we pray over our couples, we pray over the right people to be here. So faith has been huge, and I wouldn't be able to do this without the Lord having a calling on my life and my family. Like the blessing of, my parents are old. And I say that because they're the ones working here. My father-in-law is incredible, and he is not a young contractor, and he is doing some hard work because this is an old place. So meaning the things that they've used are very, hard and massive. It's different than just flipping an old home and things like that. And my mom, she does all the groundwork around here, whether that's replanting and landscaping, painting. That woman doesn't stop when she's here, and she'll always find something to do. And we always, at the end of the day, we say, Lord, we thank you for this property. We thank you for every walkthrough. We thank you for the business. And as we were in the depths of scary moments when we were spending more than we could, and as we're remodeling, you're not getting contracts. What bride is, I did walkthroughs, but what bride is really taking a leap of faith and trusting me when the bridal suite's in construction zone, and so there were moments that I was very, very scared, because the weight is on my shoulder to provide for not just my family but 2 other families, and so there was a lot of, and there's moments that for a moment I couldn't go to Home Depot. I think about crying thinking about it, because every time I would go to Home Depot I would cry, because I was thinking about how much more is this going to cost me? How much is this Home Depot run going to be? Couple hundred, couple thousand, and so there would be moments where I just would get triggered in the parking lot, and I'd just cry because I'm like, can we do it? Can we do one more swipe? And I would just pray in between those drives from here to Home Depot, between here and Sherwin-Williams, between here, being here, doing a walkthrough, going home and being a mom. So much weight, and everyone's, Julie, this is your dream, and this is your dream. How do you feel? And I'm doing, my mom is like, this is your dream. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the one working. Like, I'm at home with my kids, and you're the one at 60 shoveling rocks around, and because I had to be home with my kids or whatever, vice versa. And so it's been a lot. And I would say 10 months in, I couldn't have done it without faith. I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. And I still question it sometimes, going, is this the best decision? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And the grand opening really, really meant a lot to me, but it meant a lot to my parents to see hundreds of people happy, walking around, taking photos, and the compliments left and right. It really has been a labor of love. And for so long, it was construction after construction after construction, and not really seeing the fruit of it. And now that we've done a couple weddings and we've done the grand opening, it feels like, okay, we see light at the end of the tunnel in a way. But there's been a lot of tears. It hasn't been easy.
Oh, yeah. It's never easy in this journey, to be honest.
No. Yeah. Just because you're called to it doesn't mean that it's going to look like rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah. If anything, it's more about, oh, this feels scary.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should be doing this, but you should be doing this, because God doesn't call you to do anything that's easy.
Yeah.
It's hard, and you have to make that decision to trust in Him and be faithful to Him. And I know when I decided to, hey, I want to be a wedding videographer at the time, I had to tell my parents, no, I'm not going to be a financial representative. I'm not going to go in this route. They also came from a different country, came here, had expectations for me, but I knew that the calling was not to be a financial representative. I knew the calling was like, hey, I'm meant to start a business, but it's to make an impact. And that impact for me, the way I'm viewing it, is I'm getting to capture couples' most intimate moments, wedding moments. And I've had a recent calling too as well, where it's like, okay, there's a greater calling. It doesn't mean that that's the only calling you ever get. It evolves, as He gives you one thing, you master it, the next thing will come about. And now start on the next journey, which is what we started here. It's like, hey, we want to hear your stories. We want to help other vendors or couples, whatever time they're going through, because this applies not just only to business, but to life. Because we're all going to be facing those situations. And can we remain faithful to Him in those situations?
Yeah, I think that's the whole point too, of he gives you this calling, and then he gives you the battle to then have you be like, oh, okay, wait, Lord, this isn't about me. This is about you.
100%.
So
All
like
about
giving it back to him
Mm-hmm.
as well. Like even in my tears and even in my deepest moments, like, am I going to surrender that to you? It's huge.
And going through these last 2 hurricanes was a test. It really, Helene, I didn't even think about it. I don't know where I was. I mean, I was like, oh, it's coming. Like, I have nothing to worry
And
about.
honestly,
that. I
Helene
feel
wasn't
that's so
one of
hard.
those that felt like our area, yeah, we're good for the most
Yeah.
part because we weren't going to be affected by the winds. I mean, tropical winds,
Yeah.
hurricane winds. And if you're Floridian, you know.
Yeah.
But Milton was the one that's like, okay, that one's scary. But would you say Helene had the most impact on the venue? Or
No. So what happened was, because I wasn't even thinking about it, I was just, it's just a hurricane. Didn't even think about the property. Just thinking I'm safe at home. And I get a text, 7 a.m. Someone says, have you been on property? I said, no. He called. He said, Julie, you need to get here. You have a massive tree that fell in your ceremony area. And everything in me shut down. I mean, I was, like just
The heart
driving
sank.
here. I just
Yeah.
didn't even know what to expect. And when I saw that tree, I was frozen. I don't even think I cried when I first saw it. My mom came first before me. She sent me videos, so I wasn't too like freaked out. But when I came here in person, I couldn't wrap my mind around that massive tree that fell over the arches, over our benches. And I was like, how are we going to do this? And I mean, you text me within minutes of my post and were like, I'm down the street. Do you need me? Like, and as soon as I posted like, hey, my husband got called out of work from Tampa. He didn't have to go to work that day. He brought a chainsaw. I mean, within 2 hours, 2 of my bride's parents, dads were here with chainsaws, cutting up
Wow.
this tree. The gentleman that called me, his son was the one that got married October 10th. He came out and my husband was here all day. And I mean, within the first 12 hours, we took a huge chunk of that tree. The next day, I think 20 other people from the community showed up and cleaned up this property. By day 3, you could not tell that tree was fallen. The grass was mowed. It was just put back together. It was unbelievable. So you better believe when Hurricane Milton was on its way, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't think about it. I was so freaked out. My husband rented this massive tree trimming. It wasn't a tree trimmer, but it was like that massive lift. I mean,
yeah.
and he cut down for 3 days prepping. He cut down as many branches as he could just to help weighing off things like that. The night of Milton, me and my mom stayed up till 2:30 in the morning, and I was on my knees praying. I told every single neighbor, if any tree has fallen, it's because I didn't lay my hands and pray over. I walked this property, and I spoke over this property, and I said, Lord, you know how hard we've worked here. You've given us this property. You've had make these ends meet this far. You are not going to disappoint me. And you are not, like, I just had faith. I had so much faith. And we had a wedding 2 days later. And I was not even worried about the wedding. My bride texted me. She said, Julie, I am getting married no matter what on October 10th. I don't care what the property looks like. If it's a bonfire, if it's just my family, we are going to get married with whatever happens. And she had so much faith. And I was like, I got to have that kind of faith.
Yeah.
And, but watching that storm that night at home, I did not know what I was going to get. And so anyways, fast forward to the morning of the storm. My husband left before I did. There's no service. We have no power. So I can't hear anything. I wake up and my heart is racing. And I'm like, I can't wait for him to come back. Like, I can't. So I left my kids at home with my in-laws. Me and my mom got in the car. As soon as we get service, my neighbor texts me. And she says, I'm sorry I didn't beat you to it. I failed you. What does that mean?
Oh my God.
I was like, that's it. We don't have a house standing. Like, that's it. Like, what does she mean? She was like, your husband is on the way. Like, I just talked to your husband. He's on the way home to tell you. I just start crying. We are driving through, you saw the street,
Yeah,
floods.
it was flooded.
Flooded.
Yeah.
Not just, what's
Your
that
neighbor,
one? The neighbor, but then
Cherry
the other
Lane.
one. But the other one, Yule Road, right?
Yep.
Yule Road.
You were
Yule Road was flooded. There's detours. And I'm just crying. And my mom is holding my hand. And she goes, Julie, we are all alive. We are all safe. Everything else is rebuildable.
Yeah.
And I just cried more because I was like, what are you talking about now? Oh my
It's
God.
like all the work, the labor.
Yes. And so my heart is just racing and it feels like a war zone. It just,
Yeah.
and so anyways, we pull up and there is a huge tree that fell in front of our house. And our house is still standing, and we drive through the property, one tree down, another tree down. And I am just like, how many roofs do I see? How many buildings do I see? We had 4 trees fall and not one of them hit a building.
Man.
Oh,
So,
God is good.
God is
It's
good. And so we walked the property. We had our tears. We talked to our neighbors. Me and my mom get back in the car because we missed my husband. So we head back home to share the news with everybody. My husband's home. By the time we made coffee and breakfast and we come back, we had 20 cars here.
Wow.
And people were already cutting up trees. The wedding that was happening 2 days, the whole groomsmen party, their family, everybody was here before we got here, already working, and they were working on that tree. It was just, so we worked for 2 days straight, had a wedding. I mean, we haven't stopped since, and I just say, Lord, like, you protected us. You had people show up. Like, in a way, if I didn't have that wedding, we would have been not stranded by ourselves, but that wedding gave us an end zone to a degree, And so God is good, and they go to our church, and they were unbelievable. And it's just been, without God, I could not be here, So it's been all glory to him.
And even without the wedding, I think he was still sent the laborers there.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. But it definitely helped to have, because those people, one of the weddings I blessed from North Carolina, another booking that I have coming, they're getting married in November. They're firefighters. And he showed up with 5 firefighters that just worked the hurricane. They were 36 hours. They showed up at 11 a.m. or 11 in the afternoon, and they worked for 8 hours.
Wow.
Off shift. They brought their own lawn equipment. They brought their lawnmowers, their trailers, their forerunners.
Wow.
I mean, it was unbelievable, the amount. And it's all future clients or past clients that we're helping.
Yes.
So it was just really cool to know
so
that they
cool.
felt that family aspect of going, this is my venue. This is my venue. I'm going to help out. It wasn't this yes, I could have called the tree company. Yes, I could have called in friends, but it was really cool to see my brides and their families kind of show up. So it was special in the way of despite everything.
Yeah.
I feel like it's made a huge bond on the property. And when their wedding comes up, to be like, I helped and I was a part, and there's a different respect aspect to it too.
Yeah. Especially if they're locals and they drive by, it's a story they can tell to their families.
Yeah.
It's true too.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So it's been cool.
It gives me chills, honestly, to see what happened, because I drove through here throughout that process and time, and obviously we're all dealing with stuff, but just being able to see the amount of help and love and support, but also it reassures you. I know this is how I would feel. It's like, okay, God is providing the people to come out here and help.
Yeah.
My trees are down. My buildings are okay. We're still good. And he knows. And man, it's just he's so faithful, and you staying faithful to him it's one of those things where, as a business owner, it's like you go through a lot of things and you're always thinking sometimes of the worst. You're like, man, how am I going to figure this out or adjust? And, it's learning how to pivot, but just remaining faithful in his calling that he has for you.
And that's really I tell myself, I'm like, okay, Lord, you've tested me a lot in these last couple months. And I just pray that I'm learning. I hope that when things get easy, it'll feel easy because I already went through the hard time in a way. I've had to pivot. I've had to deal with hurricanes, and next hurricane season, I'll be prepared. And little moments like that where everything I learned in the church, applying it here, everything I've learned as a business owner, applying it here, taking those pockets of things of going, you're getting me ready for the harvest in a way of going, I want to be able to be, I want to be a mom. I want to be a family. I don't want to be just business. And so I think learning that balance and learning. So I know that he has a plan, and I just have to stay in it. And my biggest thing also with the Milton that I was so worried about was the couples that were already affected from the last hurricane, that were already coming here. I said, I do not want to make another phone call to them. of saying not only was your first venue hurt, now your second one's affected,
Yeah.
And that's what I kept thinking about. I was thinking about my clients of going, I don't want that one couple that's getting married in November to get another phone call. And so that's really what I was also kind of praying for too. And so God was faithful and we're okay.
This season in your life, this was a certain test that you had to like face through and overcome. But it never stops. It's always going to keep coming. The next one. It can be either introspective, whether it's a challenge that you're dealing with yourself when it comes to vision, whether it be for your own business or for your family. It just applies in everything. He's always shaping you and molding you as long as you're allowing to let him and you believe in him and have that faith. I know it's something for myself. It's understanding. It's like, hey, I've been doing weddings now for 7 years. Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Do I see this as like my career?
Yeah.
And I've always known like no in a way. However, I've always known that, hey, this is the tool that he's using me to plant the seeds for the next things where I can still do this as a career, have some balance, but continue fulfilling his purpose in the other areas that he has for me. And I have some new projects and new things that I can't wait to share when that time comes.
Yeah.
But this is one of them right here. And this is the seed of that. It's like, hey, like, in finding the right people that we can align with, that have a shared vision, a shared mindset, and values, that we can come here and have these conversations.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful atmosphere that you guys are creating. I admire this, and I hope that people that are listening, other people that you guys have, like, this will only, like, grow. And like, I've heard the heart with you, like you've shared your heart of what the goal of this is. And I just think it's so beautiful. And so I'm so excited to be a part. So thank you. And I just feel like this is a very special moment. Like, this whole conversation is so beautiful. And it's just like, I think encouraging being on the vendor side, being on a business side, being on friends side. Like, I mean, it takes a village to own a small business and to have friends in your corner and to have people advocate for you and believe in you and advertise for you and recommend you. I mean, that's all it takes too. And so I just think that it's really cool that you guys are creating these moments to share your platform, to highlight other people, because that's my biggest, like, I feel like that's a huge calling on my life, is like networking, but good, like
genuinely.
Good, yes. Like, I don't always want the spotlight on me. It's like, I want the spotlight on other people. I want it to be, hey, like, everyone is welcome here. Like, let's create something beautiful for everybody. I'm not going to just pick specific vendors. I don't want it to be the Julie show or anything like that, And so I think it's very, like, evident that you guys sharing a platform is so huge, and it's so appreciative. And I think that I really hope that other people listen and just kind of be inspired by that, of going, yes, like, we all need to have our gems and the things that stick out to us. But at the same time, like, what can I share and what can I speak of experience of going, this is hard. Yes, I make it look easy on Instagram, guys. It looks like I remodeled something in 15 seconds, but no one sees the labor of love on the back end, or the hard conversations, or the failure, anything like that. And so I think it's really cool to be able to talk about it and just kind of talk about the hard stuff and talk about, like, the ugly stuff, and, but then also celebrate on the other end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what
life.
it is.
Yeah. It's just like a life, talking about our lives, and life goes in really beautiful directions, and then sometimes you have seasons where you're just really low, and we all go through that, and we've talked about that a little bit, of just like how to pick yourself up when you are in those lower seasons, because that's not what you're posting on Instagram, like you said, where it's like, Instagram is such a highlight reel, and it's like, when I'm really upset that something didn't go my way in my business, or whatever that looks like, or you're just going through that lower season personally or anything like that, like, people don't see that, you know what I mean? So
but it's cool to have these conversations, like, on the back end of going, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you, or, oh, no way, like, you hate speaking in front of people, but you're doing so great, whatever.
Literally me, hi.
I can speak in the camera, but I cannot speak into a public crowd. Like,
so it's really cool. It's really neat to see the behind the scenes of different industries and different things, of how hard work people do, where sometimes you just don't know that going off of Instagram, or meeting them at a wedding when you're all so busy. So
Absolutely. Oh, thank you.
We were actually approached by one of our listeners. She's like, hey, I just want to say, we love the podcast, what you're doing with it. And I was like, no way, like it was insane. It just brightened up our day. Where it's like I messaged Ashley, was like, hey, you would never believe what just happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Because
cool.
the goal is just to make an impact.
Yes.
We can add value to a couple or a vendor. It doesn't always just have to be wedding related, but like in your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
We can plant a seed that changes the course of your life, even if it's so small as like, hey, you know what? Let me treat vendors like human beings.
Yes,
You know?
yes. I literally
like
I was like,
simple as that.
let's go back to that conversation. You know, like where
like-
it's like, I'm not trying to bash anybody.
Not
I
at
just
all.
I want whoever's listening to go, we are all human. And so like just going back to that of
Perspective.
like, be mindful when you're asking for people's time. And like, yes, it's your time
Yes.
too. And I know it's your finances as well, but like there's, I don't know, it's just so hard. Because I see it from different lenses now. Like
Very.
there's opportunities I don't get to say no to, but then I do these walkthroughs, and then they're like they ghost you and they don't even respond to you, and you're like,
Yep.
I had a 2.5-hour conversation with you on a Sunday. It was a hurricane wedding. I sat here with their wedding planner, their everything. We planned their entire wedding. They moved forward. I said, give me until the grand opening to do a contract. And before the grand opening, they emailed me and said went a different direction. And that broke my heart because I was like, not only did we already like go through the whole planning, but I gave you 2.5 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Last minute. You called me on Saturday. I fit you in on Sunday. I just had a wedding on Saturday. Like, they don't think through those things. And I'm like, yes, I understand it's your wedding. I want you to do what you want to do, but like also be mindful. Like,
Yeah.
we had a plan. You said yes. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, stick to your word too. Like, it's just so hard sometimes. So I think like it's hard. And I think sometimes on Instagram, it's like you don't want to come out negative or you don't want to come out and bash people, you know,
Yeah.
but I also think creating these moments for people to realize that we do get hurt sometimes on the
Yeah.
other side
Yeah.
too, of going, for me, all I kept thinking is like, man, that was 2.5 hours on my Sunday. I was away from my kids
Exactly.
to help you because your wedding fell apart.
Yeah.
And for you not to come back and honor that, it broke my heart from not a venue perspective. It broke my heart from not feeling like my time was valued.
Yep.
Like, it's so much deeper
Especially
than like
with family,
Yeah.
because those
Yeah.
moments are the things that, like, I have 2 kids.
Yes.
Like, hey, when you have that moment with them, enjoy that moment. You want to be there present, not thinking
Yeah.
about something else.
Totally.
And I know for me, like, me and my wife, we have these conversations. It's like, I told her yesterday, it's like, hey, it's November. I'm probably going to be less present around all of us. So let's go and have our date night. Let's have whatever we need in a moment now, but I'm not going to be available until probably mid-December because it's just going to be weddings and work and travel and all these things coming up. And it's a sacrifice that she's making for
Yeah.
it. And so when it's time for me and it's one of those like, hey, I'm off, I have less weddings during the summertime and it's family, and like, oh, I'm not breaking that.
Yeah, you cherish
Because
those,
when
yeah.
it is your time, I'm giving you 100% of my
Yes,
time.
yes.
Especially when you hire me and book me and give me the opportunity. And I can, it's different because you have to be here on site as a venue owner and give the tour and walk them through. But, having them understand, like, especially if you have to accommodate hours that aren't your usual
Yes.
business hours, like
Yeah.
a Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, please understand this. If it's
Yeah.
something that's not as serious or
Totally.
as value, like, I'd rather be upfront with your concerns and I
Mm-hmm.
can address it with you here. And then if you are wanting, like, hey, you know what, this is like a 70% chance that we want to book here, let's go ahead and
Yes.
let's come
And
and we
it's so
can
hard to have
accommodate.
those conversations. So hard to like wing those
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
like,
Honestly,
even like
though-
a nice little side is like, you're
Yeah.
just like, is that rude?
It's
or did
best,
I-"
honestly. I've learned to do that. It's easier when you can just be upfront as
Yeah.
much as
Yeah.
possible and
Yeah.
set the expectation.
That's true.
Because
it's fair.
if you don't set the expectation, it's like, okay, we're putting ourselves in areas of, oops, I steer the ship pretty much. I'm the one who owns this business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, in the past 2 years, I did over 100 weddings in one year and 61 in the other one, where it's like I had no time for myself and traveling and editing. And then I came to a point, it's like, wait, oh, I can direct all of this. I can systematize this for the most part, control
Yeah.
my time. So it makes it much more efficient. Like I don't have enough time all the time to send emails so they can schedule a call. Like, hey, how can we automate that process?
Yes.
Where it's like, hey, they can pick a time during my schedule that works for us both. And if it doesn't, send me an email and
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
But we can automate as much as things as
Totally.
possible.
Yeah.
Okay, I got my time
But
back.
I'm such a people person.
Oh,
That's my issue.
That's your challenge.
Oh, we're
That's your
people
challenge.
pleasers.
Like, because I'm just like, for me, yes. Could
Yes.
I hire someone and give them a
The task,
tour
yeah.
and give them like, hey, this is how you do a walkthrough? Like, yes. But as a wedding venue owner, I want to be the face. I want you to talk to the venue owner. I
Yeah.
want you to ask your questions and complain, whatever. Like, I want them to feel like this is what's different. Is Julie gave me the walkthrough.
Yeah.
Julie had the
I like that,
answers.
yeah.
Yes.
Like,
That's huge,
I
though.
got to
Yeah.
meet Julie, like, because, you know,
beautiful.
yeah. And so it's like, yes, could I hire someone? But yes, I could.
No,
But
what I
I
mean,
don't want to.
No, I mean at that point is when they do contact you, it's setting that
Yes.
initial email, the very
For sure.
clear expectations.
But I'm just talking about like from the difference. Like
yeah.
I want them to understand like, yeah, she talks about family and yes, it took away
Yeah.
from her time, but it's like, but I want you to meet me. I want you
Exactly.
to
We
Yeah.
want to have those
know-
interactions.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want.
I think that's the coolest thing too about being small business owners is like we give our all
Yes.
into it, like all of
Yes.
us
Yeah.
into it, because we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't make our own business and go through all those struggles on the back end to like not give it our all. And like it's like you are getting actually all of us.
Yes.
Literally.
Like my whole being is going into your wedding day,
Yeah.
and like I want you to feel valued. I want you to feel like this is me and you, and we're having a conversation and we're having a genuine relationship.
Yeah.
Like that's huge.
It's huge. I mean, so anyways, I just think that it's a lot that you have to balance. And it's
We're
a lot.
constantly learning.
Always learning.
Even now for myself, it's like I went from just doing weddings and like, okay, building my brand as where it's at today, and you know, equipment and all this other
Yeah.
things, the skill sets, the learning sets. And then you're like, okay. And then even just recently it's like, oh, you know what? My website needs to be redone. Like that doesn't feel like me at all whatsoever. It's like, hey, let me make it authentic to who I am now.
Yeah.
And let me start calling on the people that really resonate with me.
Yeah.
And like even for myself, I hate labeling myself as a like luxury wedding filmmaker or videographer or cinematographer. I'm like, I am calling myself a wedding cinematographer because I'm telling stories.
Yeah.
And the quality that they're getting is absolutely insane. And I'm not just like I'm not tooting my own
a
horn,
movie.
but it's like I'm not
Toot it.
I'm not here to just capture your day and like recreate your day the way it was. Like now I'm here to tell a story
Yes.
of who you both are as individuals, and the people around you, your family and friends. That's the love, and that's who's going to describe who you guys are and the beauty of it, and show off the scenery. And if it's like a full wedding weekend when I'm there with you, now I got even more moments, more
Yeah.
experiences of these
Yeah.
people, family members that you love, where it's like it's telling almost a complete story that you can't believe it's even real, but it's
Totally.
you guys.
Yeah.
That's timeless. You guys can look back at it and be
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, like that's us.
Yeah.
Like that's really us, but through the lens of the way I see you
Yep.
guys in you know, those conversations, the video calls, the client questionnaires, creative questionnaires.
matters.
All of it matters.
I'm like, you guys ask those questions for a reason.
Very much.
Someone just like posted recently and was like, hey guys, just a friendly tip. Like if I'm asking you to fill out a questionnaire, fill it out.
Please.
It's like,
Please.
yes. So I probably need to do like there's a couple of things I'll probably change now that we've done most of the remodel. It's like, yes, I
Yeah.
could do a virtual walkthrough video.
Yeah.
Like I need to do that because that could eliminate some people making the drive and doing that. Like,
Exactly.
yes, I know that. You know, but some of it I did love for a long time of going, I wanted people to be surprised when they got here. Like how do you capture 7 acres?
It's tough.
And
Yeah.
let people get creative and dream. And a part of it's like you have to be here to feel it, to see it, to walk it. The video could only tell so much. But at the same time, I do think that if I do a video, it could still maybe eliminate those 1 or 2 walkthroughs that will go, that's
Very
not my
much so.
vibe.
It'll still like narrow it a
Yeah.
little, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just a little bit.
What it just sparked my mind, because as soon as you start talking video and talking walkthrough, like I can start visioning clips and
Yeah.
things. And it's funny enough, I'm actually doing it for my church here shortly, but it's doing a video walkthrough where it's not just showing the space as it is empty, but showing the space with the people there filled with the memories, the action. So it's like, for example, if it's in a church setting, it's like showing the building full. Everybody is
Yes.
worshiping,
That's really
Yes.
you know, preaching, showing the
Yeah.
areas
I
with
like
kids
that.
or, you know, different stuff where it feels much more interactive. And now you get to
Yes.
see what people in. It's like, oh, this is how it looks.
Like it would be
That
kind
could
of
be
cool to
really
like
cool.
showcase this room empty, so you see the bridal suite, but then the next clip goes into like an actual wedding
Exactly, a
happening,
full
so
wedding
that you
day
kind of
actually
see
happening.
like,
Yeah.
okay,
And
the
those are-
makeup artist is here and
Yeah.
the girls are there. Okay, that makes sense.
And
like
now
visual.
you can picture it, and it's
Yep.
like, all right, like this kind of shows
I
how
see the
big the
vision.
space is. Yep.
It could be cool even as like a full-on walkthrough. Like you're walking from door to door and this whole place is packed with bridal party dresses, like
Yeah.
everything, but you're literally just walking in a straight line through the scene, like as if
It
you
was
had walked
there.
up the steps
Yep.
and you were coming in through
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's super.
There's
that's
lots
such a
of
cool,
there is lots of cool things that we could do.
Yeah,
for
that
sure,
sounds so
but-
fun, guys.
We got the
I
ideas
can't
flowing.
wait.
Creative juices. I love it.
I know. Shopping, like when you're shopping for vendors, how much more work it like goes into it. Like it's not just like shopping.
It's being, well, if you're the client or the couple,
Yeah.
like being one, it's be super intentional. Make sure like, hey, if you're gonna write lists, write out the things that you actually want, and try hop on a call, video call, before you even have to drive out, because that's already time you're wasting as a couple at a weekend to go out and visit venues. Now, as a business owner, if you want to, in my head, like the way I think of things of, hey, like let's attract the right people, the right couples. But like, what systems can we put in place, whether it's a venue owner or as a florist? It's like, what are things that we can do to ease, like give us as much time back to ourselves, but also give the value to that couple. So it's whether, hey, our system is fire the like, hey, you inquired with us. Hey, let's schedule a video consultation.
Okay.
If it's going to be for like a florist, right? You need to create a custom proposal.
Yes.
And then maybe is there a questionnaire that's sent along with it?
Yes.
And then having that questionnaire and like, hey, let's do the video call. We'll send an example, but maybe, hey, let's talk about like, this is not going to be an exact price point
Yeah.
until we solidify everything.
Totally.
And so having maybe in the contract some flexibility where you can up and lower based on the final outcome that they're wanting.
Yes. So because I see where you're going. You're going with systems.
Correct.
But what I'm trying to explain
Uh-huh.
is there's certain things that are a system. There's certain things that aren't.
Cool.
Like, right? So before, like, you get an inquiry, you have to take time to read it. You read it, then you reach out, you schedule a call, you schedule the call, you jump on a call. Okay, now you have to go to their Pinterest board. You have to look at their board. You got to pull questions even more. Okay, so what stands out about these pictures? You do the whole call. Then you hang up. Then you have to build the estimate because they're going, okay, well, I have long tables and round tables. So you have to give quotes. Because for me, I can't have like an itemized list. Like I can't
You
go.
know, for that, right?
Yeah.
For florists, do flowers change like pricing
Yes.
in season?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I can't just have an itemized
Yeah.
call. I can't go, okay, well, you just want bud vases. Well, here's your total. Like, no
Yeah.
matter what kind of flower, because it all goes on what kind of flower. If you
Yeah.
want just roses, that's one price compared to you want dainty wildflowers.
Yeah.
Because that's
Flowers
more
are
being a craft.
crazy.
Those
Yeah.
are pricey.
Yeah.
People think, oh, but they're just little bitty flowers.
Honestly, what jumps in my head is educating the couple or the client, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, understanding that these prices may change, and here's the flexibility that we're going to need to have
Yes.
based on that.
But what I think people still miss is how much time. Like when people just
Time
reach
and
out
effort
and
put
say,
into it, yeah.
hey, I just want to go on an estimate. Like, oh, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
Like,
I,
I
that
wish
comes
it was
with
that easy just to go, oh,
Yeah.
it'd be different if I was like, oh, what you're looking for between 3,000 and 4,000. Is that good enough? No,
no,
because they want to know, well, what's included.
exactly.
So then that's the thing is I think when people are like vendor shopping, they don't realize everyone does different systems and how much work goes into it.
Yeah.
Of going, what's my inventory? What's your look? Okay, do I need to buy vases? Are we renting vases? Okay, what's the travel fee? Are we doing candles? Oh, what kind of candles? Hurricane, taper, floating,
Yeah.
fake, real. Like there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
And for me, sometimes I go, I have so many questions for you to answer. How many people are you shopping with? And how many times are you answering these questions? Like for how much time you're
Yeah.
spending with like trying to get a better quote to say? Like, I don't know. it's just something that always wraps my mind.
It's tough because what comes to my head, then I'm like, if there's not systems out there or softwares that can help with it, then in my head, I'm like, is that just the nature of a florist
Yes.
in that aspect?
It is.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
But
That
I
is
don't
really
think
hard.
people know that.
yeah. I
That's
think-
the whole thing that
yeah.
I'm like saying.
that's
Is like
more so
the thing is, I don't think there's enough education
Yep.
because you get florists from all different spectrums, right? You
Agree.
the amount of conversations I have, I just want greenery. I just want baby breath. Hello, baby breath is a trend. Trust me, the wholesalers caught on to that trend too,
Yeah.
guys. So what once was cheap is not cheap anymore
Agree.
because it's a demand. It's high demand. So like those are the things that no one educates
Yeah.
the typical bride or the bride's mom or whatever. They're just going, but I just want this itty bitty thing. And I go, well, I still got to get a hold of that itty bitty thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so
and
I
then
just
work
think,
your magic on that
Yes.
itty bitty
Because
thing.
So it's
everything
you're the
can change,
designer.
right? From like, hey, well,
Yeah.
cost of fuel has gone up, logistics has changed, wholesaler raised pricing.
Yes.
Now that affects our bottom line. You know, everything changes. And so
Yes.
especially when you work in like a product like that where it's a perishable and like, and you need to maintain it, you know, keep it
Yes.
good and then work on it,
There's
the
so
labor that goes
much
into it.
on the back end.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that would be a great opportunity, like you mentioned, education.
Yeah.
Where, hey, let's start creating content reels around that.
Yeah,
I
that's what
know.
I was gonna say too. I think that's a really cool way to like get a look into the back end of like calling out brides, like, hey, 2025 brides, like,
Yeah.
this is what's up. This is what's
Like,
going on.
I've been to
And then-
venues where
Yeah,
planners have told me the budget for florists, I'm just,
actually jaw dropping.
yeah, insane.
Please send them my way. No, I'm kidding. I
But-
get the opposite. A lot of ours are always like, but I was just thinking X amount. And I literally look, and that's why I have a minimum now. I've had
Yeah.
to learn. But like at the end of the day, one thing I always try to end my calls with is go, I know florist, I was gonna say florals and florists at the same time. Florist are always at the bottom of the budget to a degree. If people say they don't care about florals, I don't care about florals, I don't care about flowers. And I go, okay, awesome, talk to me about your wedding. They tell me their wedding and go, cool. So the only decor that you have on those tables that your 150 guests are sitting at are the florals that you're talking to me about, but I have the lowest budget. Help me understand that. Because those florals at the ceremony are going to be in every photo, in every video shot. They're going to be where you do your vows. That's going to be where your guests see you, but you gave me the lowest amount of budget, and you are forgetting that that is going to be something you see for the rest of your life. And then they go, oh, okay. So you gave me the smallest amount of budget to decorate your whole wedding, but you spent the most money on food because the food catering is per head and it is what it is. But because I have a little bit of a wiggle room and say, okay, what do you want? Well, what's your budget? This and that. So you give me the lowest budget, but you're not realizing that this is what your guests are looking at the entire night. And they're like, oh, so I think
Yeah.
there is a need to educate whether people love florals or don't love florals. It's like, okay, then don't use florals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't see the value in decorating, then find something that you do
Yeah.
see value in.
And the cool thing is like, right, there's a huge market and then there's little niches within those markets
Yeah.
in what couples value. So for example, like you mentioned, those that value having a guest experience, that their guests are enjoying it, they're just in all of it and that they appreciate it themselves. Like, hey, that's the target market to really
Yes.
call on that. Hey, they're going to appreciate that. They're going to put the value into it because they know it's like, hey, we want our guests to have a really great experience.
Yeah.
To remember this occasion, not just like our wedding, but remember how beautiful everything was in a sense. And that's huge. I know I've done a few weddings where our couples, like, they really value that. Like, hey, we put a lot of effort, money into this.
Yeah.
We want to make sure this is captured. We want to see people's reactions to this.
Oh, that's
it's like,
cool.
This is huge. I know when I've seen couples really take the opportunity to, hey, we're going to invest a good amount into decorations, the florals and, signage, lighting, all those things.
It sets the atmosphere.
It creates
does.
such a vibe that's
Yes.
absolutely insane.
Yes. And that's why when I do a walkthrough, I'm like, yes, guys, it does feel flat
Yeah.
in a way. Yes, the room is white, But you got to remember, it's white because
It's a canvas for you.
it's a canvas. And when you have those bridesmaid dresses and the luggage bags that come and the makeup artists, they need the space. Like when you walk in here, it's so colorful because
Yeah.
it's like everyone else's decor makes it.
Yeah.
But when they're doing a walkthrough, they might go, they would never say that it feels stale in here because I think there's enough character in here. But
Yeah.
just talking through the venue, right? You're looking at arches that are plain, you're looking at the courtyard that is empty, and you have to see that vision of going, oh, there's high tops, and then there's florals, and there's color, and there's music, and there's cornhole.
Yep.
Now, if you envision that, you go, okay, this completely looks different.
Yeah, and that couple has to do that. And
Yes.
I think that's the whole thing too, circling back to the education thing too, is we're in the industry, we see all this stuff all the time.
Yes.
People who are just getting engaged, they
don't know where to
really
start.
don't know. They don't know where to start.
Especially if they're planning their own wedding and they've
Yes.
never attended many weddings.
Yes.
I think that's what that could set you apart too, of just like educating on like, hey, this is what all goes into
Yes.
this. And even from a wedding standpoint of like, there's so much more that you could do with this space. Like if we really thought outside of the box of
Yep.
whatever comes to your mind, you know what I mean? Like,
And that's what we did with the grand opening.
Yeah.
Was like, okay, by the time I get my first tent wedding here, it could be a while. So
Yeah.
guess what? I'm going to get a tent here. I'm going to mock a wedding here because people have to see it.
Exactly.
And so once they see it, they'll go,
oh,
We're very
I
visual
see it."
creatures.
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So
We just
Hi,
have to
creatives.
be
you
able to see.
have to be able to see it. So, so that definitely, it helps to be able to create those moments for people. And I love doing that. That's a huge part of it, is like styled shoots and fun
Yeah.
things like that.
So
It's
much
like,
fun.
it makes it fun to go, oh, this is what you were thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the vibe that you want? Like, are you feeling light and airy? Are you feeling moody and romantic? Lots of candles, like that matters. So I think the same thing when you look for a venue. Do you want outdoor? Do you not want outdoor? Do you want nature? Do you want it to be all indoor? Do you want it to feel intimate? Do you want it to feel small? Like, I'll kind of ask those questions in the beginning once they're on site. But I think some logistics that you should think about really is vendors in a way. Like, yes, some venues might be awesome, but they're not thinking about load in and load out. Where do the cars go? Where do the trucks go? Where does our tables and chairs included? Oh my goodness, you have to rent that? Well, before you book, make sure you get a quote on what tables and chairs cost you, because that might make, yeah, cool, you found a venue at X amount of thousand. You add in all the others and it matches your dream venue in a way, but they didn't think that through or something like that. And then I think logistics of like your guest, of course, to a degree. I'm like, your guests are going to drive or fly. If they want to be there, they're going to make it happen.
Right.
I think sometimes couples think too hard about their family and their guests, and they go, I love it. Whether it's here or somewhere else, I love it, but it's a little bit far for everybody, or where are they going to stay, or da-da. And I'm like, honestly, that's up to them. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Do they want to drive 30 minutes or an hour? Like, things like that. So I think logistics, having like a pros and cons list. Like yesterday's walkthrough was awesome. They were like, the girl really wants an outside ceremony, but an indoor reception. And that's hard to find sometimes, of both. But that was something huge for her. So she's looked at 2 venues. And I'm like, awesome. You know what you want. You know what you're looking for. Compared to going, I'm going to start looking at all these venues and not even knowing if you want an indoor, outdoor, or all indoor or all outdoor. Like, I think just having the basics figured out at least will help you traveling all over Florida, who knows where, looking at these venues that you're like, wow, this is not the look I was going for at all. And then obviously the logistics of like what's included, which I always try to be very upfront, but I still think like I love when people come with questions or they email like all their questions. Like, hey, do you have a full catering kitchen? No. Perfect.
Yeah.
So if your catering needs a full kitchen, I'm not your venue. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Like those things I think are really awesome if they could think through, or they've been to a few walkthroughs and they go, now I know what I'm looking for in a way. So I think like obviously a part of it is the experience. There's only so much you could do planning wise and logistic wise, but I think the more that you know and the more research you do, the easier it is on everybody. Because then the bride and groom knows the look that they're going for and the vibe that they're going for. Like people will do a walkthrough and they'll go, so what is your plan if it rains? And I go, I don't have a plan. My ceremony's outside and you could see that from every angle. So you tell me what's your plan?
Yeah.
Because my area, you can't do a tent. So that's not an option. So if you want to get married here and there's a chance that it rains, you have to either be okay with the inside reception being your ceremony area, or it's Florida and we roll with it. It's going to rain for 15 minutes. Awesome. Postpone your wedding 15 minutes. We'll go out there, we'll wipe your chairs, and we'll continue on with you. Like, there's a point where, like, they try to throw it at you, and I look at them and I go, it's your wedding.
Yeah, this is the space.
This is your canvas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
either love it or you don't. And if it rains, we pivot and we have a plan. But don't be looking at me to give you an answer like, oh, if it rains, I'm going to promise you a tent or so. Like, you know, those things where I think like I advertise my ceremony is outside. Yes, like you tell me. And that's what I really kind of started doing now because I don't want any like liability for that.
Exactly.
I'm like, and we'll usually end in the bridal suite and they could see the ceremony area and they'll go, so what is your plan if it rains? I go, you tell me. Because trust me, I've been at Don Cesar 3 times. You get your beachfront, you're paying for this beautiful hotel, you're paying for the ceremony outside, and it's rained every single time.
Oh, it's tragic. Yeah.
What do? You go into the ballroom. You paid thousands of dollars. Thousands. Yeah. Your guests are at the property. It's rained. You're going inside.
Exactly.
It's going to rain. Guys, it's Florida.
It's Florida.
It's happening. I've been to some nice venues.
But the difference is you're at Don Cesar.
Yeah.
They have a timeline. They have a schedule. They have a liability. I've been there 3 times and it's rained 3 times.
That's crazy.
And they could not postpone the wedding.
Yeah.
They had to stay on schedule because the liability, if someone slips down, you know what I mean? So like you're choosing that. And if you didn't have a backup plan or you weren't okay with it being inside, well, you should have thought about that before booking there. So I always tell them, this is your property for the day. It's up to you. You're the bride. You make that decision. If it's a sprinkle, it's up to you. If it's a thunderstorm, obviously, that's up to you. You know, like things like that. So, but I think thinking through that before you go and look, like doing those little research will kind of help you and save you, and just kind of having a backup plan. But a lot of times when people come here and they're going, I'm getting married outside, rain or shine. And I go, you're my kind of bride.
Let's go.
You know, I love those kind that are like, go with the flow. And I'm like, it's a year and a half out. What do you want me to tell you? Yeah. I don't know the weather. I don't know.
So
like,
true.
you know, like, but it's, and I get their heart. I get their gesture of why they're asking. But at the same time, I think sometimes like the parents might be a little more concerned with the ceremony being outside. And I go, you guys, but you drove here an hour and 15 minutes. Like you knew the ceremony was outside, right? So if it's such a big concern.
Yep. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so I mean, I think that's the best advice I could give is just do your research to the best that you could. Think through the logistics when it comes to set up and tear down for certain vendors, what is provided with the venue. I'm not tooting my own horn. This was an existing venue. That's why I liked it, was everything is on site. From your guest arriving to the parking lot, to the ceremony, to the bar for cocktail hour, to the bridal suite, to the groom room, everything's on site where you're not going, oh, well, how far is the hotel before the ceremony and da-da-da-da-da. I love that everything's on site. You're here for the day. But again, other people go for other looks, and I understand that too. So you just kind of have to, but you have to think that through.
Exactly.
So, I have a lot of venue walkthroughs that come here for a venue, and they want to get married at a Catholic church. So they want to do the Catholic church, but do the reception here. My first question is, are you using the bridal suite? And they're like, yes. I go, awesome. So like you've thought that through. Like you're going to use the space, you're going to leave, but then you're going to come back. Yeah. Because if you're not going to get ready here and you're not using the ceremony,
it makes no sense.
I don't know that this is the best fit for you to do just your reception here.
Sure.
So, and I try to help them navigate that. But I think even for people to think about that before they start shopping around too is just a good starting thing, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many venues out there. There are so many options, and the venue's the first before all the other things. So it's a lot, but the best that they could do to have a wedding planner, a coordinator, do their research, and then kind of shop around would be my best advice. Come check out the Uliana.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for coming on the podcast.
Thank
it was
you.
so amazing to have you. And thank you for letting us use your beautiful bridal suite. It has been so homey and cozy and just the best.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
Where can they find you?
At Uliana Estate or ulianaestate.com.
Ooh. Javi, where can they find you?
At sundial.creatives on Instagram and www.sundialcreatives.com. Check out my new website. It's pretty fire.
Cool. And you can find me at Ashley Jade Photography LLC on Instagram and TikTok, and same thing for the website. And you can find us at the 2717 podcast, 27 the numbers, 17 spelled out, on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I don't know what you watch on or listen, but you should do that.
It's on all of it.
But you should do all of it. So
Like
we will catch
subscribe.
you guys. We will catch you guys next time, and